Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. We have a lot of news stories in today's podcast. But first up, let's talk about KPMG. KPMG's UK, former interim CEO finally quit, Mary O'Connor. We spoke about this a few days ago, about how KPMG elected a new UK CEO in the UK last name's Holt. I forget his first name right now, but he replaced Mary O'Connor, who was the interim CEO. She was a woman, he is a man, and they both replaced Bill Michael, who said some crazy things on a video call, and she was not given the opportunity to be the chief executive, and so she decided to leave. And I think there's a couple things we can learn in there. I've spoken about it a little bit, but I think somebody like Mary O'Connor, she had been at an insurance brokerage before then. She was like the chief risk officer. She went to KPMG. She was the interim CEO, which is very big. And then she was not able to get the CEO position. And I think she just made a professional choice to leave. She saw the environment, or she saw how she was being treated after that interim CEO, and she's like, I probably don't have a chance to ever get this position, because if somebody's elected as CEO, unless they mess up on a video call again, they'll probably be in that position for at least 5 years. So she knew she wasn't going to get that position, and so she decided to leave. I think what we can learn from that is you got to make similar decisions in your career. Obviously, don't make them rashly, use logic, but you have to look at your professional career, realize it doesn't go on for forever. You have to realize whether you're given opportunities and whether you can reach your goals. Now, I think it's also important not to get insanely goal-oriented to where you just spin yourself out of control, because a lot of people get devastated if they're not promoted in 2 years. But I think you should have goals. You should figure out whether you can accomplish it at the firm you're in and then leave. And I think Mary O'Connor is a good example of that. Okay, the next KPMG story I wanted to talk about was a website they created. They created a website called Kpmg Impact, and I saw this in the US. I think this is new, and this is their ESG environmental website, and it's like blown out. It's got a lot of stuff in there. It has, I think, at least 20 partners throughout it that you can contact. And what it says is, we believe that ESG makes businesses better. Your company is facing pressures from investors, regulators, shareholders, customers, and employees to transform your business with an environmental, social, and governance lens, as you know. And what and how to execute on ESG can be complex and confusing given the number of standards and approaches. ESG is no longer a siloed concept, but is something that needs to be embedded in a company's entire strategy and operations. This is where KPMG Impact can help. KPMG Impact helps achieve your ESG imperatives. It is a holistic ESG solution that paves a clear path to the purpose-led, sustainable business to build resilience and drive profitable and measurable growth. Our extensive services and capabilities focus on key ESG themes, such as sustainable finance, climate change and reporting, with a wide range of data-driven solutions, technology tools, and deep industry experience to navigate and simplify the complexities of every stage of your ESG journey. Now, I feel like those couple of paragraphs, you could replace ESG with any service offering in the Big Four accounting firms, and that's like exactly what they do. It's like, yes, we're always trying to cater to regulators, shareholders, and customers. We're trying to be purpose-led and measurable growth. You're trying to use data and technology. So, I mean, that's how these service offerings from the Big Four are they're not experts in ESG right now. They have people that work in other parts of the firm and then now can work part-time in this, and they're going to learn as they go. They're going to make mistakes. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but they're going to make mistakes and then they're going to learn and then they're going to apply that to their other clients. But basically anything ESG, whether we know it's going to be audit, consulting, or tax related, and they're offering services in every line of service. So if you're in any of those lines of service and you want to work on ESG, there'll be ample opportunities. Maybe not this year, but in the coming years, there's going to be a lot more ESG opportunities. We can see this because KPMG and other accounting firms are building out complete web pages for services that they're offering in this area. And all you have to do is look in the news. It's everywhere you are. It doesn't matter what country in the world you are. It has to do with diversity, equity, or it has to do with climate change. And so this is just going to be more embedded, especially as regulators step up and the government step up in this area. So next up, I wanted to talk about a government contract that I saw a Big Four accounting firm win. Ernst & Young was awarded work from the FCC in the U.S., and they will administer a $1.9 billion fund to reimburse carriers to replace network gear made by Huawei Technologies. Now, Huawei Technologies is a Chinese company, and the U.S. government is worried about potential spying or bad acting going on by Huawei. And so they're trying to get rid of that, and E&Y will administer that fund, which makes sense since they're accountants. But as I've continued to talk about on this podcast, I think government work is going to continue to increase in the Big Four accounting firms. And lastly, there's a press release from Deloitte and Paylocity. Paylocity is a public company, and they help with payroll and human resources stuff. And how they partnered with Deloitte is they had Deloitte create a study of human resources people, and Deloitte helped them come up with a new product, and that new product is the Modern Workforce Index. It's a dashboard to help deliver more efficient HR processes to employees, and HR is human resources. And this is things like payroll and tax tasks, time management tasks, communication, and engagement tasks. So what Deloitte did here is they helped create a study, and it helped a company come up with a new service. And I think that's a unique way for the Big Four accounting firms to work. And I think Deloitte can really take advantage of it. I think the other Big Four accounting firms need to get more into consulting and things like this. But I mean, it all depends. It all depends on the accounting firm, because I think you have to balance being an auditor with a consultant. And I think Deloitte is fine being a consultant over an auditor. But I think Deloitte is also winning a lot more work. But I think it's all relative. I think it's about whether you want to be an accounting firm or not, and it doesn't really matter the size compared to the other. In the short term, it just depends on which firm wants to focus more on accounting and tax versus consulting, because there's plenty of really large consulting firms out there other than the Big Four accounting firms. And I think as accounting professionals, you have to realize that getting a CPA is, in my eyes, more valuable unless you actually chart out your career in consulting and figure out what's the most valuable. But even that's going to be hard because it's hard forecasting the future. But getting a CPA and working in accounting is extremely valuable, especially if you work in very valuable areas like M&A or in tax, like international tax. You work in those types of things, and you're going to have a skill set, and you're going to have education that is a lot more than your average consultant. But there's obviously a lot of revenues in consulting, especially now with government work. So that's just something I was thinking about. But those are the updates for today. Stay up to date. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast. If you can financially support us through the Buy Me a Coffee link. And today, I'm not going to say the YouTube thing. I'm going to ask people to leave us a good review on Apple iTunes podcasts. Give us a 5-star review on there. It'd really help us out. Thanks for listening.